Green Bay Day to Day. Hey, what's happening there, ladies and gents? It's your boy, Beefy Bitch. And we're here on the Green Bay Day to Day podcast. How you been doing? It's been a couple of weeks, and the biggest news, I think, aside from, you know what? We'll start with, sadly, Dwayne Haskins was hit by, I believe it was a dump truck, and he was killed, tragically. I won't pretend like I followed the guy's career really closely at all, because I didn't. And there are plenty of memorial tweets and stories that have been, that have covered that, I should say. But I will say, can you just appreciate that somebody has fucking died? Yet again, I just one of the some fucking I don't want to say for sure who it was, but I think it was in that Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, maybe Wojnarowski, that was hey, he struggled in the NFL. Bro, can you just fucking for a second analyze that the guy fucking died? He didn't announce his retirement. He's fucking dead. I don't know. Anyway, so I just wanted to, keep that in your, he survived by quite a few people, and he never made it to 25. You know what I mean? His first quarter century never came really through, even though, he was born in, was it 97, I believe? So, but his birthday hadn't passed, so 25 full year, I guess. So after discussing that for a moment, let's go to, I think, two of the biggest free agency movings, and we weren't able to talk about it because it had occurred after the fact, but Tyreek Hill went to the Dolphins. A lot of people are talking about the Chiefs might be out of the playoffs. We'll talk about that in a second, but I think that Tyreek Hill to the Dolphins and Davante Adams to the Raiders are two of the big, the big headlines, I should say, right? Because I think the Colts with Matt Ryan, it's going to be a tricky day, for whoever's playing them, because I think Matt Ryan is a pretty damn good quarterback, and that offensive game, that running game, I should say, is already something, not to shake a stick at. What the fuck does that saying even come from? Of course, I don't think that Green Bay will have any troubles. I think they were 11-0, or 11-1, or 10-1, or something like that, or something close to that without Davante Adams. So to sit there and pretend like, oh shit, our season's in the tank, Obviously, Aaron Rodgers said it correctly last year when he did say, hey, we're not a better team without Davante Adams. But things are, they didn't have Davante Adams against the Cardinals last year, for example. And, it ended up being, even if it was kind of on a prayer, we did walk away in Arizona with a victory. So, but Tyreek Hill to the Dolphins, for what I would have thought would have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. We did talk about Tyreek recently because of his, he beat on his fiance, or maybe it's his wife by now, but at the time his fiance, if I'm not mistaken, in college. But now, to speak very sincerely to the probability, I don't think a lot of people believe in him, and that includes me. Again, not to take personal shits on the guy. I just don't think he's a very good quarterback. To protect as a receiver, you can do a couple of what are those called? Jet sweeps, right? Where the receiver kind of pulls around and behind the line of scrimmage, and it's just a handoff, but to the receiver. I think that is probably going to be fine, but he's definitely not going to have the numbers that Mahomes was able to give him. There are a few people that are saying now let's see Mahomes do it. First of all, I think that Mahomes is kind of in that Rodgers territory, like I'm saying, where I don't think that this makes them necessarily, or even a markedly worse team, even if even at all, excuse me. The odds have stood pat. They have not moved at all. So, I don't think that that's something that anybody is going to have to worry. The Chiefs are still probably going to win their division. They might be in the first round bye with home field advantage. But, just looking at the reality there, I mean, Tyreek Hill he's going from probably going to be a Hall of Famer. I still think that he's going to eventually get in the Hall of Fame because I don't think he's going to spend the rest of his career with Miami. So wherever else he goes, he definitely could take that production back up. But every receiver is built a little bit differently. I don't know if it's fair to say that he's still in his prime. I don't know about that. But I mean, because it's just different for everybody. It's arguable to say that Jerry Rice didn't have a prime. Or never lost, whatever, never went out of his prime for fucking winning. What did he win? Did he just win the yardage mark for a receiver at like fucking 40? So something unbelievable like that. But as far as like, well, the Chiefs are going to miss the playoffs, I don't think that that's a realistic possibility. You still probably have the best coach in the division, presuming that somebody, what was the Green Bay's offensive coordinator? I don't remember, whoever the hell that is, doesn't make an immediate standout, right? Even with Russell Wilson there, I still think that you're kind of a Patrick Mahomes is probably the best quarterback. So, and honestly, I mean, their defense might be, I'd probably put it at the Broncos. I think the Broncos have the best defense, but Chiefs are probably not that far away. Even if they got a few inflated, like, Jordan Love played against them instead of Aaron Rodgers when the Packers came to town, and they did play the Giants, the New York Giants. So all that stuff is true. I won't pretend that it's not, but okay, well, yeah. So I guess discussing free agency, let's talk about the biggest losers again. I don't want to just consistently talk about Green Bay. So I will just say that Green Bay didn't really do anything except for re-sign some of their guys. I don't think that that's a very big. I think most people would say that you're staying out of free agency if that's all that you're doing. And they've always been like a draft and develop team. So I don't blame or whatever. I just think that you are missing out when Bobby Wagner is available of all fucking he's top 5, top 4, linebackers in the NFL. And, I don't know. I'm sure that they tried to talk to him, but the point is that they didn't get him. And then moving back over to, staying in the NFC, but moving over to the East, I think it's the Cowboys. The Cowboys number one. They got a couple of receivers, but I mean, they really, really do. I don't know these guys. I don't even fucking remember their names. I didn't even write them down. Because, whatever. They're making their coin, and maybe you kind of have that come out of nowhere possibility, like some other fellas, we've seen, like Donald Driver was drafted in the 7th round. I don't think anybody would have been like, holy shit, one of the marquee Green Bay historic Hall of Fame, I don't know if he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, but, historic receivers of all time for Green Bay. But that absolutely did happen. So, otherwise, I mean, the Cowboys lost a couple of guys in the receiver room. Amari Cooper, and then I think they lost Randy Gregory too. So again, I don't know about prime and all that fun stuff, but I do know that the guy can contribute. You are pulling the trigger on something that just, admittedly, defensive line seems to be one of the safest. We know what we're getting. It's a safe bet, all that kind of stuff, but. Sometimes it's it seems to be working for a lot of fucking teams recently to just say hey, you know what, we're going for it. Forget about what we got to pay for, later on, or in the draft. Let's get the guys that we know that can contribute and compete and compare to the other teams. And I think that Green Bay is one of those teams that's just holy shit, we're fucking lucky that we're even, and it's totally because of our quarterback situation. That we went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers is it's an unbelievable boon. Get ready for some down years, fellas, because I suspect that Aaron Rodgers' retirement, if not this year, will come definitely after next year. especially if he does come away with a ring after one of these 2 years. I'm sure that he's going to be walking away from the game. So that's my thoughts on free agency. Before we talk about Brady potentially buying the Dolphins, or before we talk about the herd with Colin Cowherd, we're going to talk about Tom Brady potentially buying the Dolphins, or if I even buy that. Like, so, again, like I said, I'm an FS1 kind of guy. I don't really check out ESPN. I don't know if when Nick Wright was saying, hey, it's the 49ers, that's where he would probably go, is like, hey, that's where he was born and raised, and he grew up a Montana kind of guy, and extra whipped topping on the cake or the pie, whatever. Yeah, he would be replacing Jimmy Garoppolo, who would have in theory replaced Tom Brady in New England for the Patriots anyway. And a lot of this just seems like a weird maybe the guy just decided not to retire. Now, okay, there is something that absolutely, just knowing Tom Brady's history, he absolutely pushed Bruce Arians up to the front office. There is no fucking question in my mind that Bruce Arians was going to come back and try to rebuild after Tom Brady retiring early. After Tom Brady retired early, excuse me, and then he just got pushed away by Brady coming back. So when people say that he was going to go play for the Dolphins, I totally believe it. I don't understand why he would have retired and then come back. Like, if he wanted Bruce Arians out, why didn't he just fucking say so? Or if he wanted to play in Miami or own some of Miami or what have you. I mean, the guy, I know that Tom Brady has always, he's definitely been on that side of the fence where he's like, just because I'm saying it doesn't mean that I'm thinking it. And whether or not I want something doesn't mean that you'll ever know about it. But I mean, yeah, all signs point to north, Absolutely. Tom Brady did try to get rid of Bruce Arians or did his kind of thing in pushing him up into the front office, I guess, as a consultant, if I'm not mistaken, or some kind of, variant on that. And then Bruce Arians came out and said, hey, Tom Brady didn't have much to do with that offense at all. It was all Byron Leftwich. So still some shots being fired over all that stuff. So, alrighty, so let's wrap up the show with just a little analysis on the herd of Colin Cowherd. Now, I've watched it a few times, a few more than I care to admit, and that's not to necessarily rag on the show. I think that it's a fine show. It's just that I just wish that there was a little bit more consistency in the portrayal of his sports analysis. I guess I don't know how else to really describe it, as he's a kind of guy that I don't think that he'll make a prediction, right? And like all of us fucking do. Like, he'll say that there's like I didn't hear a single fucking thing from him after he said, "Oh, hey, Joe Burrow's the MVP." Absolutely, I watched his, and he made another case for it later, a little bit after the fact. But ever since Aaron Rodgers has won the MVP, and listen, hey, look, Joe Burrow's an up and coming guy. He will win an MVP. I'm very confident about that, presuming that there's not some surprising drop off or a career marred by injury, But that's part of the thing, is you can't I listened to the guy say that he didn't care about interceptions. What? He actually had a pretty decent take later on about oh, hey, if Aaron Rodgers is a little bit more risky with the ball, I'll presume that they're closer to wanting to be a Super Bowl team, But otherwise, it's dude, this is it's not. It was 39-4, if I'm not mistaken. The amount of touchdowns versus the amount of picks, and he threw 2 picks in the first game. So, yeah, so it's okay, I understand what you're saying when it's 3-2 instead of 4-2, but it was fucking 10-1, very nearly, It was a 9.75, if I remember correctly. So it's like that kind of stuff where it's just like, bro, like, I don't think that you are on, like, even if you are kind of in the vicinity of like, oh, Joe Burrow should have won MVP, quote unquote. Like, what are you, bro, what are you talking about? Like, yes, I don't disagree with you necessarily that, that he has a case for it in the same way that Giannis should win the fucking MVP this year. There's a very good case for it because he's beating all the, like, I don't know, the doing more with less thing I've never really bought, and that just seems to be like the crux of his argument all the time, which is he loves to dump on Aaron Rodgers, fairly or not. So it's like, without an offensive line, Joe Burrow can make it to the Super Bowl. How come Aaron Rodgers can't? And it's like, okay, well, I don't know why, but the fucking 49ers have his fucking number. He's like 1-13 against them all time. And they are an epic second half collapse away by Patrick Mahomes of not making the Super Bowl. So it's like, you can't look at a very good fluke and act like, oh, see, this is the way that it's going to be for years to come. So, I don't know, maybe it's because he dumps on Aaron Rodgers all the time. But, honestly, I think it's lightly deserved for all the talking and interviews and the way that he acts. Like, the guy acts like he's won like 5 rings and he's got 1, So I get it, but I don't know. It's just, it's like I don't think that he has a great grasp on the NFL as a whole or how it kind of plays out, because it was like, he had the Broncos in his top 10 one time. The Broncos. Well, they're 3-0. Well, they fucking beat, like, who? I think it was the Jets, the Giants, and the who was it? Was it the Panthers or the Dolphins or something like that? So it's like, oh, yeah, the teams in between them have one whole combined win. I didn't, I don't know. It's like, it's just that stuff where it's just like, oh, he does have that cool segment. Colin was right, Colin was wrong. His blazing 5 he should get fucking rid of. Yes, sometimes it's good. It's usually very bad, but yeah. So anyway, I don't know. Like I said, I don't watch it too terrible much, but Joy's fucking hot. I'll say that. All right, everybody. I think that's about it for this episode. We'll see if we can't catch a little bit more with the more news with the draft, and even if that's not the case, then I will definitely do the Matt to Matt comparison with a special guest. Hey. Anyway, you can catch me at on Twitter at GB_D2D, and you can email me at GB-D2D@outlook.com if you'd like. Otherwise, we'll catch you later.